You're welcome to Soccer Night. Soccer Night, as always, throughout the 26th edition of the Nations Cup. We're coming to you with 2 hours drive. We discuss all the major soccer issues happening in the Nations Cup. Don't forget the Nations Cup is on a break today. Tomorrow we'll be back on Sunday for that big encounter between the Super Eagles and the Black Stars and the Ivory Coast and Guinea on Sunday. But we're looking back at the bad, the good, and the ugly of the group stages. We're looking at our impressions about the Nations Cup, the bad performers, the star performers, the coaches, ticketing, and I've got able gentlemen in the studio to do all the discussions with me. On my immediate left, I have Dennis, and I also have Tom and Charlie. They are in the country doing a couple of coaching clinics here and there, educating people about HIV and AIDS. They are using football in that particular manner to educate children and people about HIV and AIDS. So it's all about the Nations Cup, but as well as you also want to do a bit of education of HIV and AIDS. So they are in the country covering the Nations Cup as well, but they're also doing HIV and AIDS. And we're going to ask them about their impressions about the Nations Cup so far. It's been 12 days of fantastic football. I mean, it's been 65 goals, 65 cards, 1 red card included and all that. So big things. 16 nations came to share passions at the center of the earth, but it's finally trimmed down to 8, and the boys have been separated from the men, and we're going to do battle about who rules Africa from Sunday onwards. So guys, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask you in just a few words, where are you in the country right now, Tom?
We're an English-based organisation, Tackle Africa, and as you were saying, we're here running football coaching clinics with local partners, SOS and Right to Play, and we're working with schools and with football academies and just groups of young people, trying to deliver good football coaching which will help them improve their football skills, and also we're delivering HIV/AIDS messaging through those football drills. So our idea is to use football to reach as many people as possible and then to give them crucial, hopefully life-saving messages about HIV and AIDS, and also train local coaches to deliver these messages once we've gone away. So we've been working hard in Tema, also here in Accra, with young people, with local coaches to train these HIV/AIDS messages through football.
Okay, Charlie, why the name Tackle Africa?
I think when the charity was started about 5 or 6 years ago, they tried to get a football analogy in there to try and make it clear that we're a football-based charity. So I think Tackle Africa was probably the one that won the vote at the end of the day. But it's quite catchy. I think it makes it clear that we are a football-based organisation, which is what we want to get across to young people.
So far, so good in terms of what you guys have done. How many days have you been around?
We've only been here since Saturday, so not very long, but we've been worked hard by our local partners since we arrived. We've been working with 3 different schools in Accra, with Right to Play. We're one of our big
Right
partners here. Yeah, we're sponsored with Chelsea.
They were here some few months ago with Jose Mourinho and co.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, the guys are all kitted out in their Chelsea kit and look professional. So we've been working with them, and we've been working with SOS Children's Villages. They have a big village in Tema, and they've been running their own version of the African Cup of Nations. They've been bringing teams in from West Africa to play against their Ghana teams, and it's been a really big success. So we've been there adding our coaching skills and our HIV/AIDS education to the young people and training SOS's staff to be able to do this once we're gone.
Okay. Tom, moving away from what you guys have been doing specifically in the country, I'm sure you've been watching the games. So for your impressions about the Nations Cup?
Absolutely brilliant tournament to watch. I mean, as Charlie was saying, he's gone to a lot of World Cups, European Championships. This is our first Nations Cup, my first time in Ghana. Watched a few of the games on television before we came here, and we could get a taste of the excitement, particularly in the stadiums. But going to the Ghana-Morocco game on last Sunday was probably the best atmosphere I've ever experienced in a stadium. You know, it's very loud in English stadiums, particularly Anfield, but in the stadium in Accra on Sunday, I've never experienced that level of noise for so long. You know, a goal would go in and people would be celebrating wildly for 15 minutes after the game had kicked off again. So really came out with ringing ears, very deafening, couldn't talk to each other next to us, but had a fantastic time. And that atmosphere has pervaded everything here, and we're having a fantastic time because of it.
Okay. But you have been at a couple of tournaments as far back from 1996.
Yeah.
Your first time in Ghana, and you are the 26th edition of the Nations Cup. If you look at the tournament so far you've been, what has really caught your eye in terms of the tournament?
Here in Ghana, I mean, like Tom says, the atmosphere has been fantastic. I've been to a lot of games over the years, at World Cups, been to Japan, been to Germany, European Championships in Portugal and Holland and England, and there's some particularly noisy fans and a lot of singing and chanting, and England fans in particular travel very well, and we get all over the world. I remember when we got to our first game was against Sweden in Saitama in 2002, and 3/4 of the stadium was English flags and English shirts, which was a fantastic effort, I think, by the England fans to get there. And England fans are noisy, but this is a completely different style of celebration. This is the rhythm going on, the beat, the horns, the whistles, there's orchestras in the crowd. There's people with trumpets and trombones. And we spent the first 10 minutes just watching the crowd. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so the atmosphere is very, very special. Very, very impressed.
I'm going to bring in Dennis right now. Dennis, your impressions about 12 days of football?
I've loved it. I think it's been really good, to be honest with you. I think teams have played very well. As I was saying, the supporters have enjoyed it, especially here in Accra, whereby, you know, I think half of the people are not even watching the game. They just seem to be dancing, singing, and it's nice to see that. Really, really nice. But it's been good so far.
It's been good so far.
Yeah.
But we just move away a bit from the atmosphere, the whatever has transpired, and quality of football. What do you think about the quality of football?
I think the quality of football has improved, and that's partly to do with most of these African players are now applying their trade in Europe. You know, gone are the days whereby you watch an African Cup of Nations and people are shooting from halfway line, you know, not putting passes together. But you can tell that the players themselves are playing better because they've got better teams they're playing with in Europe. And I think I would say some of the teams are better prepared now as well. Majority of these teams have been away for a couple of weeks, you know. Their clubs have released them early, except for by 1 or 2 players, you know. But it's been good, and at the end of the day, preparation plays a major part in this tournament. And I think, yes, African football is here to show the rest of the world that, listen, if you give us time, we could prepare and we could get things right. And that's what the players are now doing on the pitch.
Okay. But Tom, you definitely follow English football back in London, and you're here, and there was this big talk about the teams in Europe or teams in England losing their players to their countries. And what's your make-up for that particular issue?
Well, I think people in England think it's a bit strange that the African Cup of Nations happens every 2 years. Obviously, the European Championships and the World Cup happen every 4 years, and they kind of alternate, so they're never at the same time. And especially as every 2 years the Nations Cup is the same year as the World Cup. I think people find that a bit strange, but we were